Amazon is the best business incubator in the history of the world. You can be a little guy who has a great idea for a product. You can sink $10,000 and test it on Amazon and see if you can sell it or not.
Welcome to the High Voltage Business Builders, a show where we interview entrepreneurs growing and scaling their income through e-commerce and showing you the path to make your first or next million. Hey everybody, welcome to the call. It's Neil from the High Voltage Business Builders. I have a special guest here with me today. We're going to talk about Amazon selling, the pros and cons of dealing with this ecosystem and how to address it properly today, both from a business perspective, but also a product and a brand perspective. And so I brought somebody here that I'm excited to talk about today. There's somebody that we work with indirectly, and it just so happened I got connected with Leslie, who is a owner of this company, a CEO and a leader, and has done a very good job of leading this business forward. And I'm glad to have you here today to actually talk to you about what you do and about what Riverbend does. And so thanks for joining the call. Let's dig in.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So we were just talking in the green room about some important components of what you want to speak about today. You want to break that down for us, and then we can kind of unpack this and get into it.
Absolutely. So third-party sellers on Amazon see seller performance, account health, performance notifications, voice of the customer, all of these nitty-gritty details of the business as negatives. You don't want to wake up in the morning, check your account and see a performance notification. You don't want to see an ASIN suspended. And we all see it as just this negative, terrifying, bad thing. But if you change your mindset a little bit and change your SOPs in your business, all of these can actually be drivers of profit and a positive thing. So you can flip the bad, scary thing from Amazon on its head and make it into a positive for your business.
That's fantastic. Well said. It's one of the things I love to pontificate about when people ask, well, what are you doing that's maybe different, or why is this different, or what experiences have you had that allowed you to reach levels? And it literally always has one thing to do. We always focus on profit first. Profit first in the business, profit first in the brand, and obviously the products, and what we define as profitable and what others define as profitable. So let's dig into a little bit, because you talked about account health, and obviously these big notifications can be a problem, especially when you're getting started. And obviously when you get running and you get a lot bigger, they can be more impactful. What do you tell people when they get started, like from the very beginning? What are some of the top 3 things you want them to know about in terms of critical path to success?
Well, thing number one, it sounds so basic, but a lot of entrepreneurs, they just jump right in. I'm going to sell on Amazon. Let's go. And they don't bother to understand and know Amazon's rules. And Amazon is not eBay. They are not any other platform. They have their own set of rules and regulations. And if you don't understand them from the beginning, you could set yourself up for failure. There are a lot of gurus and programs out there that'll say, try this great strategy. Let's do retail drop shipping together. It'll be awesome. Well, things like that, you'll lose 20, 30, 40K overnight because you don't know the rules and know that this is against the rules at Amazon. Yeah. So there are product categories that are riskier, and you've just got to really know what those things are. So that was kind of a long thing, number one.
No, it's actually good, because you broke into some things you and I agree on, which is good. And I know we see this in a very similar way. How long have you been selling in the ecosystem, just to give us some experience here?
I've been selling on Amazon for 12 years.
Yeah. So nobody knows us in certain relationships and stuff until we get to know each other and who networks, because you're not out there pumping courses, and neither am I. So most people don't know who we are and how long we've been in this ecosystem. A lot has changed in 12 years. Am I wrong?
So many things. Okay. Back in the day, you talk about wild, wild west. You just buy a product, throw it up there, it would sell, not a lot of competition. I mean, there weren't all of these gated categories. You could sell in any category. It's a completely different world. And also, there just weren't as many people figuring out ways to game the system. So Amazon has had to develop new rules and new systems and new ways they do things, as there have been more and more bad actors out there.
Yeah, marketers can, excuse my language, turn things to shit when they get involved in these platforms. That happened on Facebook, as you watch the marketers pile into Facebook, and then Facebook did what it would probably any business would do. It put in gating and policies and reciprocal policies to overcome any issue of gaming and TOS compliance or illegalities that may have occurred or legalities that would occur. Amazon's done the same thing, right? So it's got a little bit more difficult and more stringent. Even the startup process has gotten a little more difficult. What are the second and third things you think people should know? You started in and to that. I want to keep going back to the beginning, the startup, the things that have changed. What's the second and third thing on your mind?
So, thing number two is to understand Amazon is not your friend and they're never on your side. They are not your partner. It is just a platform. They expect you to understand the rules and play in their sandbox. They will always take the side of the buyer over you. Now, I'm not saying if there's some scammer who obviously received a package or
Right.
returned something that was not the actual thing. I'm not saying Amazon's never going to say, yes, in this case, the seller was correct. They will sometimes, but generally speaking, they expect you to provide a perfect experience for the buyer, and that is all they care about. They don't care about your business.
Yeah, no, that's so well said. And it's realizing, everybody wants to know about the pros and cons. And you hear so much of this nonsense on the web about all the pros and how fast you can make money and all this nonsense from the gurus of YouTube and all this other crap. And I'm glad to hear you being very practical because it aligns with my belief system too. This is a business. It should be treated like one. And like any business, even if you're a carpenter or you're a construction person swinging a hammer, you can still break your thumb. The hammer's not really your friend if you use it the wrong way. So the end deal is to understand the real aspects of how to approach Amazon. And as you go backwards, just like you said, if you're going to be drop shipping or screwing around with Amazon, expect them to drop a hammer on your thumb. And don't be surprised when they do, because I hear a lot of victim mindsets in this, pontification, right? Third thing, what's third on your list?
So, first, I just have to say, I love your hammer on the thumb analogy because I always talk about it's like walking around with it like the cartoon with the anvil over your head and you're waiting for it to fall on you. Um,
Yeah, that's right. Wile E. Coyote
that's
trying to
right.
constantly escape. Yeah,
So thing number three is product quality is everything. And product quality means people need to receive products. This is golden rule time, the way that you would want to receive the product. So, in other words, you don't want a package that's got shelfware because you might be wrapping that up and giving it to grandma for her birthday. You
right.
don't want items that have been opened before that were returns. All of these things that you would not want, you need to deliver to the customer. And people mistakenly think, oh, well, I ship FBA, so everything's going to be great. No,
No.
they don't handle your inventory gently. They don't grade your returns well. So when you package stuff up and you ship it off to Amazon to sell FBA, you have to make sure it's packaged in such a way that after it's been stored in a bin, pulled out of the bin, repacked, and gone through USPS or UPS, it's going to actually arrive in beautiful, pristine, new condition to the buyer.
Very well said. Yeah, it comes with its own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you have to address that for a business person from a business angle. So, those who are listening who might not actually have started this or are considering it, one of the things, again, you got to listen to what Leslie's saying here. You need to think about this as a business, and every business has its pros and cons, its opportunities, its weaknesses. Know the platform, know how they're going to approach you, and then work within it. If you work within it and you play nicely, there's a lot of reward that can happen. So, what are the top three things you want to talk about that would be rewarded when you do it the right way? Now that we've heard some of the things that you can obviously get in trouble with.
And there is so much opportunity and reward. So I'm a
Yeah.
little bit of a freak in the Amazon ecosystem because I could literally sit here for 72 straight hours and tell you horror stories from my thousands of clients and their bad experiences. But
Right.
then I'll tell you, Amazon is the best business incubator in the history of the world. You can be a little guy who has a great idea for a product. You can sink $10,000 and test it on Amazon and see if you can sell it or not. There is really no other way that you can develop and
Right.
market and see if there is a viable market for a product idea that you have as powerful as Amazon. So to me, that is reward number one. That's huge.
Yeah, no, that
Absolutely
is
huge.
tremendous because you are able to battle against major brands who are established. And if you do a great job, then you can actually be rewarded as a single mom pop shop and get in an aspect of control and competition with them, which I love. Now, obviously, saturation is very different. We'll cover that later. But what we're talking about is a fair market competitive opportunity that literally anybody can take advantage of, which is so cool. I've seen 19-year-old high school dropouts go to $1 million a month because they got an opportunity to take advantage of that. So, what's number two on your book?
Number two is you can choose the way you want to work. And this is one of the few things that the gurus out there preach that is absolutely true. You
Mm,
can decide that you want to be the kind of seller who, no, it's not passive income, but let's call it semi passive. You
I call it
get
almost
product to
automated income.
yes. So you get the inventory out there, it's all at FBA, you're checking on the business every day. You've got maybe a VA you've trained, but you're not sitting 40 hours a week. It can be a great side hustle. It's amazing. Or you can nose to the grindstone, 80 hours, 100 hours a week and build an empire. You can really choose and you can change that all the time. You can
Yeah.
decide what that's going to be every week. It's
Right.
awesome.
No, that is a huge benefit, and I'm glad you said that because obviously this is an engine, and like any engine or startup in a car, you got to get up to speed. You know, your lowest mile per gallon, the most difficulty is getting the engine up to speed, getting the car up to speed. But then you hit cruise control, and at cruise, when you're cruising at 70, there's just things you manage. Like you don't necessarily step on the gas and hit the brake all the time. You're not constantly dodging things in the road, and you have a real opportunity to cruise along and get your best miles per gallon. And if that's what you want, I agree. We have people, we do ourselves manage multiple brands for 10 to 15 hours a week. You can do more if you're going to be building product staging or product growth. You can do less if you just want to cruise along. And of course, you can go somewhere and do it on a laptop. You don't have to necessarily have that infrastructure. We leverage it, which is one of the things you're talking about. The leveraged infrastructure of Amazon is one of the major benefits it has. I've had, 12 employees. I've had a 20,000 square foot warehouse. I've had all that nonsense dealing with them, the time, the payments, the infrastructure costs, and the inventory problems that come with that. And of course, sexual harassment lawsuits from managers who shouldn't be talking to women the way they were. So that all comes with its own opportunities and challenges. I have none of that now. I run like 0 employees in my infrastructure. Everyone's on SOPs and OKRs, and they're all performance based. So I'm glad to hear you echo that. I completely agree with you. 3, what's your third thing?
So I think the third thing is that you really do have a large amount of control if you compare it to your typical everyday job, or you compare it to people who are trying to hawk products into brick and mortar retail stores. So I know that a lot of folks think Amazon really has all the control. Well, they do have a lot of power,
Yeah.
but there are so many things that you can do as a seller to improve the value of your product, to enhance the quality of your product, to make sure that it's competing the way that you want it to against others in the segment. You can make those changes. You don't have to ask anyone's permission to make those changes or convince anyone that they're the right changes
Yeah.
to make. And to
Yeah.
me, that kind of empowerment is really exciting.
Well, it is, and it does give you a bit of more control in terms of brand affinity, your ability to compete in the market, and your ability to move, across, up, down, leverage. You can go any direction you sort of want in that, as long as you're playing within the terms of service and you're obviously building a
Mhm.
business with a brand, which is extremely important. So, how does Riverbend help people navigate through those pros and cons that you just laid out for us?
So most of our clients come to us when they are very unhappy with Amazon. So
Hmm.
their account has been suspended by Amazon or they've had ASINs taken down by Amazon. And in some cases, they're just having weird problems that they do not know how to solve and seller support can't help them.
Yeah.
So things like you've had inventory that is in transshipment stuck for 90 days, and that is way past what it's supposed to be, and no one will help you, or the dimensions on your product have been measured wrong by the Cubiscan and no human being will correct it. And so the fees you're paying every month for those individual products are triple what they're supposed to be because it's, extra, extra large instead of just a medium or whatever that might be. So
Yeah.
when you're beating your head against the wall or when you've had ASINs taken down, we help people get those issues resolved faster and cleaner so they can get back to selling.
Yeah. And as a client firsthand in transparency in the sending clients to you from our business for things we just simply couldn't get to the last mile on our own, I highly recommend you guys. Like, this is great for those who are listening. My clients who are listening to this are probably some of your clients now too because of the support. And I can't tell you, just it's been highly recommended to work with y'all. You've been very professional. You've been very smart about what you do. You obviously have the seller experience. And as we've talked more and more, I feel more comfortable with your knowledge and experience around the enterprise and what you do. Whereas I know there are other services out there I've talked to, and it's like, wow, you can't answer some of the basic questions. What exactly are you guys doing in the market?
Well, thank you so much for the kind words. I appreciate it. But I think really my favorite thing about our business is we have the combination of sellers, real
Yeah.
sellers. My business partner is a pretty big seller, where I'm more of a what you call the day-to-day lifestyle seller these days. I focus more on Riverbend. But then we also have about 15 ex-Amazon employees who can speak Amazonian. So when you put those two together, it really helps.
So where are you now in terms of your, Riverbend is doing what most importantly for the sellers right now? And then where do you see yourself sort of if you put your CEO hat on for a second and you're out in the big ocean of the business world right now, where are you setting your sights on? Where's your course headed?
So most folks do come in the door for those account reinstatements and ASIN reinstatements when they're stuck, especially if it's one of the more difficult suspension types. A lot of sellers who've been around can handle a condition issue where Amazon says you sold as new, and that's why we took down the item. But when you get into code of conduct, forged documents, leaked accounts, and sometimes even basic and authentic, where you do not understand why on earth they won't accept your invoices, things like that. That's why they come in the door to us. And then we have some value add ongoing services. We love to, once we get you in, we like to keep you. And so we have month to month services where we continue to monitor people's catalog. So we have some clients who are very large. They might have thousands of items. So they have multiple ASIN suspensions every month. And once they're a monthly client, we just take care of those on an ongoing basis so they won't get suspended again. And then we do some other growth oriented services. We even help with like videos and listing optimization. And then some of the dirty, ugly things no one wants to do, like answering customer service messages.
Yeah, those can be kind of annoying, especially in certain
Yes.
categories where you may receive a lot more customer support than you would in certain other categories. I think the most powerful thing I've heard you say yet, though, is the recognition that Amazon is an incubator opportunity. And what I mean, and I think what you do too, is while I can still see a seven, multi-seven, even eight-figure business opportunity on Amazon, there's obviously a greater world beyond the 47% market share they currently have to expand to DTC, direct to consumer, and out to other market channels. But from a simplistic perspective, I think you and I both agree if you're going to get started and you want to get on e-commerce and Facebook ads and traffic and paid media is not your area of expertise and you're worried if people will actually buy your product, make no mistake, there's about 4,000 sales a minute happening on Amazon, and I'm pretty confident you'll be able to get some product moving. Anything else you'd love to leave with us today, Leslie? Any other knowledge bombs?
So, what is super important for sellers to remember is that even though Amazon's not your friend and seller performance isn't your favorite thing, but they do give you data that you can use to help your business be a better business. So, do not see the account health dashboard as a terrible thing. Don't see voice of the customer as something horrible.
Yeah.
Use those and build SOPs for your team. Even a VA can be helpful on some of this. You don't have to always do it. To check those return reports, look at the comments you get and the feedback that you get and the reviews that you get. So my favorite strategy, my favorite thing to leave people with is to always be fixing your worst ASIN. And you will always have a worst ASIN because you're always fixing the worst ones. So they're all going to cycle around. Figure out what has the highest return rate, what people aren't happy about. Read all of those comments and all that data and figure out, you know what, my listing detail page is misleading. Or a lot of people are confused by my sizing chart, or this keeps breaking in transit. We've got to do something about the packaging or the seals at the factory. There's always something to do better. And if you will do that, you'll see that the data and the things that upset you about Amazon yelling at you because there are buyer complaints, you can turn that into gold because your returns are what kill your bottom line on Amazon. You eat so many of those fees and never get them back for the items that shipped out and were returned. And plus you have to refund the money, right? You're getting killed on those. If you will always be working that worst ASIN and improve those return rates, not only will you have fewer nastygrams for seller performance and fewer suspended ASINs, you're going to start making more money every single month you do this strategy.
Fantastic pro tip. Thank you, Leslie. I'm honored that you came on to share with me today and the audience. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you so much. This was fun.
If you like this episode, please share it with people you think will enjoy it as well. Thank you for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for a brand new episode of High Voltage Business Builders.